Can you give a little bit of a backstory on who you are, what you do, and then we'll go into kind of like just the different opportunities in the music industry. And like I mentioned before we started this actual live, part of the goal for these interviews is I want to just open people's horizons that, they say, I want to work in the music industry, but maybe they don't have the talent of music. But from what I've seen from your Instagram, I mean, I've been following you since we met. You're such a music lover, and
I'm a
I
fan.
love how
Yeah.
much you love music, and like that's what I appreciate. So let's get a little backstory.
Thanks. Yeah. So I mean, the quick backstory is I am from Burlington, Iowa, like a smaller town in the Midwest. I grew up playing the viola, actually. So I played the viola for like 10 years, was in like symphony and everything, and played the flute for a few years, but stuck with the viola longer. Was kind I would, was kind of told in high school that like upon like applying for colleges and they make you choose your major right away. This was what 2008. And it was like the mentality that you have to choose your major right away and you have to figure out what you're going to do with the rest of your life. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I mean, I love music. I want to do music, but like everyone was just saying like, well, you're probably just gonna have to teach. Like you're just gonna be a music teacher. You're gonna teach violin. You're gonna teach whatever. And I was like, well, is there anything else? And at the
Mm.
time, it was like it didn't seem like there was anything else in that path. So I chose um, design. I chose like graphic design. Got an art degree at Iowa. Graduated from Iowa. Bounced around for a little bit. Landed in New York. Still doing design work and bartending. I was a bartender for 10 years, just with for extra money and everything. And that's kind of how I met Chris. Was that too quick of a pull through of the
No, no,
thing?
that's
Yeah.
totally so. So just backtracking a little bit, you've
Yeah.
always loved music, but
Yeah.
you didn't really want to teach.
Yeah. I
Uh,
was like a concert junkie. So like I love like
yeah.
going to shows and like, yeah, just live music, anything to do with that. Like I kept with, even though I didn't play the viola in college, I kept with like live music and tried to get involved in that. And yeah. But
So that's really cool because there's so many people on that watch this channel that like just love music, and they might
yeah.
not play an instrument, and even if they do, they just might not want to teach it, or they don't know if they want to really perform, but like
Yeah.
that's really cool. So now you're bartending, or you were bartending in New York City, and you met Chris bartending, or
Yeah.
really you
Yeah,
just walked
exactly.
in?
Yeah, so
No
he
way.
he was one of my so he lived across the street from I used to work at this little like a speakeasy sort of in East Village.
Cool.
And so Chris at the time, this was when the studio when Sterling was in Chelsea in Lower Manhattan. So he lived across the street from the bar that I worked at, and he would come in all the time, we'd chat or whatever, and it was a smaller bar, so I was the only bartender on, which meant that I had full control over the music. And
Nice.
so I was always playing my own stuff. And like, I think I played like a few like Bleachers songs or something and something else by Lord or Harry Styles or whatever. And he just kept saying like, I, I mastered this song. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but like, cool. Um, and then he sort of explained to me, like at one point he like got my attention was like, he's like, what playlist is this? You're always playing really great music, all this stuff. And it was a huge compliment once I found out who he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, but as I'm like working and trying to retain information, all I like he was I remember him saying things like, do you work in the industry? And I was like, no, I work at an architecture firm. I'm a graphic
Mm,
designer. It's whatever, it's boring. And he was like, well, you could, like whatever. And I was like, well, no, I don't really have a degree in music or, that ship sailed,
mm.
was my thinking. And then I remember going home one night after like bartending and just being like, maybe I could. And so I got online and I searched. I remember him telling me that he worked on Harry Styles' record. And so I Googled Harry Styles engineer, sound engineer, and I found Sterling's website. I found the picture of the bald guy and I clicked on his name and I was like, we don't give out our engineers' email addresses. So I found his name and took it to Facebook and found him on Facebook and went full stalker and wrote him like this nice little message. It was like, hey, it's your local bartender. Would you come in and grab a beer and tell me more about this how someone like me could work in the music industry? And it was
I
like,
love that.
yeah, it was a full. I mean, sometimes he'll screenshot and send me the message, and it's so cringy. I'm just like,
How
yep,
long ago was that?
that was probably like 4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, at least 4 or 5 years ago when I just moved to New York. So but yeah, we became friends and he got me connected with a couple other people in the industry, got me a couple lunches, got me into when Sterling hosted a Grammy party when the Grammys were in New York one year. Just sort of we kept in touch, and like he was super cool. He would always come into the bar, excuse me, the bar while I was working, um, and introduce me to whatever friends were in town, whatever, like to make any, like I was literally just craving any connection
Mm.
possible. So I was doing all my research and like trying to meet as many people as I could. And simultaneously at the same time, I was living in Brooklyn with like four other people. Uh, we're splitting bills. There's all sorts of in a house that big with four different people. Just like I just appointed myself house admin. And so there was one day I was sitting at the bar and Chris came in and I was like off duty or whatever, just sitting on my laptop working on my little spreadsheet that I had for my roommates. And it was like, I would buy all the paper towels, toilet paper, I'd pay the bills, the electric bills, and all these things. And like I kept that all there. I kept each roommate in a column and made sure that they were paying me for each one. And he looks over at it and he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm just doing my monthly bills." And he's like, "Does that say toilet paper?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was like, I buy all the toilet paper, paper towels, dish soap, all that, junk, and I charge my roommates like $7.80 a month so that we can just keep the Amazon subscriptions coming and nobody has to go to Dwayne Reed and it's like, more cost efficient." And he was like, "Stop right there. You're a psychopath and I'm gonna hire you when my manager quits." And I was like, "Okay, whatever that means, like thanks." And then, like a year later, I mean, his manager actually like quit and or he left to do something else. And Chris called me and I was like, "Yep, absolutely. I'll be right there." Like it was awesome.
That's what a story. So one thing that actually
Yeah.
surprises me about this, because like I mean just I'm a lot of my knowledge is from the research I've done, but also really kind of just watching both of your Instagram stories. It seems like you guys are pretty close, friends now.
Yeah.
So I assumed kind of just based on the story that like it was kind of this like snap, like oh work for me kind of thing. But it seems like it was actually more of like a process, which kind of I appreciate the not giving up kind of aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely. I like made sure that I didn't lose contact with him and he
Yeah.
like even, so like it's just awesome like being able to like work with one of your like we're literally best friend like everybody here at Sterling is really
Yeah.
close, which is awesome. And very few people here have been hired based on a resume that was submitted. Like
Mm.
there are very few, or like yeah, I guess I could say that pretty confidently that most people it's just like you make connections, you know somebody, and then when a spot opens up, everybody's racking their brains and they're like, "This person would be perfect. Let's call him.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's pull this person in." So like I was one of those people that like, Chris has never even seen my resume, which like kills me because I spent so much time on it, but it has nothing to do with music.